What's up? Hi. A tale of four properties. Ooh, that's a little loud. Or maybe it's just me. It's not even really a tale. It's just a conference talk. So, whatever. I just wanted to use that cool font that was called, like, birthday cake or something awesome like that on DeFont. Indeed, I do those things. I won't say it again because you already know. Okay, the four properties, which apparently was a big mystery. I wasn't sure. There were some people trying to guess what they were based on some. Anyway, we'll get to what four they are throughout this tale. The tale begins. Let's just say you really, really like the band They Might Be Giants, which you should if you don't. They're fantastic, right? Let's say you really, really like them. Their seminal album, I'd say, came out in 1990 called Flood. Here's the CD cover, I guess, of Flood. I recently got my hands on this baby on cassette, really rare. It was really good. It's one of the only albums that I own that has like an intro track that's almost like a marketing jingle. It's really pretty cool.
In love again? Why are we marching hand in hand? Why are the ocean levels rising up? It's a brand new record for 1990. They might be giants, brand new album, Flood.
Dan Wilson made that for me. It's really nice. That was kind of foreshadowing to some other properties we're going to look at. This was more, maybe like if you hadn't heard that intro track, not surprising, is more known for this song, This was, I don't know. They have radios? Is it radios? It's probably a radio hit.
You can hurry me out by the light switch. Who watches over you?
You know that song? It's a good song. Anyway, that has nothing to do with any of this. I figure, though, if you have fandom like that, if you love this album, you love this band, you really only have one choice. We're going to do this. We're going to make a damn fan site for They Might Be Giants. Why not? What do you put on a fan site? Lyrics and photos and stuff? I don't know. It's going to be sweet, though. I don't really have a strong plan. I have mocked something up loosely as to what we're shooting for. Something like that. Yeah, cool. So one of the best songs on this album, I think, is Particle Man. It's a really fun song about some people battling each other and stuff. It's just kind of fun if you don't remember it.
Particle Man, doing the things a particle can.
Yeah, anyway, it's a funny song. I love Particle Man, so let's set that thing in HTML. A fan site obviously should have lyrics for the best songs on it, so let's write that in HTML. HTML looks something like that, I think. I think I'm doing it right. Some paragraphs or whatever, but I need an idea here. This would be boring if we just set this in a fan site just like that. I don't know what would happen. We need something, spice it up a little bit. So I'm like, Triangle Man. He's kind of if you really listen to this song, he kind of wins. He's kind of like primarily the winner of the song.
Triangle Man, Triangle Man hates Particle Man. They have a fight, Triangle wins, Triangle Man.
Yeah, Triangle Man always wins. If he's in a fight, Triangle wins. It's kind of how the song goes. So I was thinking, we got to do something with triangles here. This is perfect. I want to slant that text in like homage to Triangle Man. Let's slant that text. That's a perfect thing to do on a fan site. So this is how you slant text in HTML. Well, that's the idea, though, like that, slanted. That's my plan, which is perfect, I think, and really has the right kind of indie spirit for a fan site, I think. But, okay, let's do it better, or like with new technology or whatever, if we have to. There's this technology. Okay, so we set some text, any text, whatever. Maybe they're lyrics, maybe it's a poem, whatever you use HTML for, I forget. and you chuck a floated element in it. You know, floats, that's kind of what they're for, not layout so much. They're awesome for wrapping text around stuff, though. There's a cool property that allows you to kind of, instead of using its natural shape to put text around it, you define kind of like a new shape for the text to flow around. It's pretty cool. It has to be floated, though. There's a new thing called CSS exclusions where maybe that doesn't happen. I don't know if those exist yet or not, but let's do the float thing for now. Here's our element. It's floated. It has a width and a height. The text wraps around it. Perfect. There's this new thing, though, called shape outside, and I've faded out the element because now that I'm using that property, no longer does text wrap around its natural self. It now floats around some new value that we're about to give it, which in this case, we're going to use polygon. And that's where I'm like, polygon, what's that? That's awesome. I can just say a polygon in CSS, and it makes a polygon? Cool. So what does it take? Well, it takes a comma-separated list of values like that. So 100, 0 is that one at the top, halfway across this 200 pixel element. 200, 200 is the bottom corner. I'll just do the last one, and it just makes a triangle. And now that I've done that, and a polygon is just straight, any number of sides that are straight. Now that I've done that, the text does that, which is perfect. That's exactly what we want to happen. Cool. So it's it's like chipping away at a floated element, which I realize is kind of wrong. It's not really chipping away. Like it tends to be smaller than the element, I guess, but it just changes it. It could have been bigger. I think it can be bigger. I'm pretty sure it can be bigger. But anyway, if we wanted to slant our excellent lyrics page like that, we would just put a floated element there and then make the polygon like 100% tall or whatever and just slant it all up there. What's rad about this, I figured out, well, I don't know, I figured out, but I figured out for myself because I didn't know this. You can animate it because it's just numbers. So check it out. I just put this thing where you click the button, it adds the class to it. It says to have a transition value on it. Boo! That's cool. I mean, it's stupid, but it's cool, And it looks a little choppy here. It actually runs fine. It was just the video was weirdly low frame rate in this. I wouldn't count on it as performant animation, but it looks okay on. Works on my machine. So this is how I would do it. I would have a shape outside or whatever. I would say that's the thing that I want to transition. And that first polygon is basically like a nothing. Those numbers add up to a line essentially. And then I just toggle a class that flips a new polygon on them because they have the same number of points there. It's able to interpolate those values and have a transition on it. Sweet. And this is whatever. Here's just a demo that has Samuel will appear a few times in this. I don't know if they might be Giants hang out with Samuel L. Jackson, but they do, I think. Whatever. You can move it around and you just move that value and thing. It's just to wrap your head around that value can be anything. You can move it around. You can do weird stuff with it. So let's do Universe Man, also a character in Particle Man. He's big. Obviously, he's ugh. Universe Man, he's huge. My idea is, why don't he come in and smash up his belly up against the text? Why not? Tiny Toons once made a video of Particle Man, which was excellent. He's very big.
Universe man, size of the entire universe, man, usually kind to smaller man.
He's huge, clearly. He's got a big fat belly. Let's have him smash in and wreck up on this text a little bit. Shape outside that we just looked like that could take polygon, can also take a circle, or can take an ellipse. That's fun, so let's do that. Let's do the same kind of thing. We'll have an off class that basically defines an ellipse, but it has this negative value that makes it kind of irrelevant when you put universe off class on it, and then universe on, it slides that circle down. So why not? It has the same values in it. Those are interpretable and animatable. So this is how that will kind of work. You have this big floated element. Actually, it could be any size. I was learning as I was creating these slides. But let's say it kind of collapses to irrelevancy when I've defined this ellipse that's now off the page. And then I'm going to translate it on. I'm just going to bring it down when that transition hits, and it's just going to move the text over. That's theoretically how it should work. So I click it on. Triangle Man still works. I can transition triangle off. Boom, Universe Man comes in. Yes. That's so cool, I think. See how it just knocks away? Like, who would even guess that would happen? I just had no idea that would happen. And I was like, what? That is something else. And so, like, you can't really transition a polygon, like we had for Triangle Man, to Universe Man, Ellipse, because that just won't work. They're, like, different values. It can't interpolate those things. But if we just, like, do some exotic class name manipulation where you transition it off and then, like, wait and make sure that's cool and then put the new value on, it will transition to that. So that's why I had those on-off classes. You don't really need that, but it just assisted in this idea that you could switch between totally different shapes. Cool. So none of that was tasteful, but you can be tasteful with shape outside if you'd like to. Stacy Cameronmore made this demo. That's Stacy herself. She's like a gymnast. She defined this polygon shape around her, and the text goes around. It's just kind of nice. It's that magazine feel kind of thing. It's not like the most useful property in the world, but it's pretty cool. Of course, Jen was all over this last year and made tons of really tasteful demos, all with fruit. So circle, probably. Ellipse, which an elaborate circle, probably a polygon around the grapes. Something that cuts all the way through, that's pretty cool. It works in multi-column layout. I think this one is, you always see float left demos with it. I think this one is float right that the plums fall into, and then things go around that, so pretty cool. Tasteful demos, really nice. You can actually, it's not, so we got, what? Circle, ellipse, polygon. So far, this is a URL. You can point it to an image too, and it uses like the alpha channel of the thing to go through, which you can kind of adjust with this shape threshold thing. But you can see I'm screwing around in DevTools here and look at the shape outside. That's what it has decided is the thing to shape outside it. So it can take a URL too. Who knew? Super cool. Maybe let's do Person Man. He also appears in the song. Here's just a generic Person Man. He's got an arm that's curved. So, like, how do you define that? Circle, ellipse, polygon? None of those really work because Person Man is vector path data. To make a curve like that, it's not a polygon, it's not a circle, it's ellipse, it's a path. Yeah, that doesn't work. Shape outside supports polygon, cool, circle, ellipse, inset, which we didn't look at, but it just pushes the inside of a rectangle, not path, and kind of URL. It can take an image, but not, like, a lot of times URL points to like a fragment identifier or something, or like an ID essentially of a SVG thing that would be its equivalent. It doesn't do that. So anyway, and that's only in browsers that support shape outside at all. So this is the browser support part. For the rest of this talk, I'm not going to do browser support at all, because what I'm talking about is like the confusing combination of these properties and the sub-properties they support, not whether the browser supports the property at all. But Chrome's pretty good. Opera comes along for the ride. I think that's the Android logo. I don't even know. The iOS on both. Firefox just shipped it this week and did an excellent job of all. It supports all of it very super well. So this week, cool. Firefox, good job. Nothing on that side. And I don't even know if it should work in Opera Mini, isn't it? Like, sometimes we're like, no Opera Mini, but it's like, it probably shouldn't work, isn't it? It's supposed to be like a really simple PDF of a, probably shouldn't support it. So good. We'll put that in the good column. You can kind of fake a path. Like, nobody's going to notice. You could fake Person Man with a polygon. That's probably what Stacy was doing with the gymnast thing and what the Jen did with the grapes. You just kind of fake it, you know? Why not? That's fine. But it's whatever. This is what managers say when they want to change the subject. All right, but dude, we didn't even talk about Particle Man, which is the name of the song. We have to talk about Particle Man. He's the namesake. He needs to be flying around up on our fan website. He needs to whoosh. I have loosely charted out a course for Particle Man to travel. I drew that myself. Thank you. That jaggedy polygon trick is unacceptable for Particle Man. He needs path data in which to travel upon. I need fluid motion action. I demand it. Fortunately, there's a property for us. It is called offset path. If you know it as motion path, it has changed its name.
Why they changed it, I can't say. People just liked it better that way.
I don't know why. They just did. It's like Istanbul. This is what it looks like. That's the old syntax. It's the new syntax. It's otherwise identical. You give it, wait for it, the same looking thing as polygon or circle, ellipse, or whatever. It's a function. It's called path, and you give it path data that looks exactly like SVG path data, down to the unitlessness of it, which is a little weird, but whatever. Paths are pretty cool. They literally can draw anything. So I've been told that like even in SVG land, if you draw a rectangle, under the hood, somewhere, somehow, it's just a path anyway. It's just what they call syntactic sugar, which is one of my favorite phrases. It's just like, we're just giving you this nice little API, but under the hood, it's going to do something fancy anyway. All of those other shapes, polygons, rectangles, circles, ellipses, anything you can draw at all can be drawn with path, but of course, path can draw anything else. It's a syntax where it's like, move pen here, draw a curve to here, draw a straight line here, do anything that you can draw with path. So path comes from SVG land. It's expressed with a D attribute. Cool. I once dug into it. I'm not a genius in it, but I was trying to figure it all out. It's these like things like that. There's a letter that starts the command, and the letters take values, sometimes 1, sometimes up to like 4, I think, in some cases, and then it does stuff. C is like draw a curve in a very certain way to a different place. That's why it can draw anything. So back to my excellent path that I've scoped out. I drew that just in like a free SVG editor. There's a number of them out online that are cool. This one's called Method Draw at that URL. It's got a pen tool just like Illustrator. It's kind of great, you know, and then you just save it out. You got SVG data, literally vector data, yeah. Export it, get the path, bunch of numbers. That's identical to what you need in CSS. That's SVG, but you just copy and paste that. Here's particle man, we put offset path, we just dump it in the path. We use a keyframe animation to make them move from 0 to 100% offset. So rock and roll, particle man is moving around. If that's a little hard to see, I think I jack them up in this, or I slow them down. Yeah, moving along that path perfectly. Make it bigger so you can kind of see how the rotation works, which is just like a freebie. You get a motion offset, which is a pretty nice freebie if you ask me. If you make it a car, it makes more sense, you know? Which is cool. And then I slowed it way down there, and I think I speed it up. So it's kind of cool. The rotation is sometimes useful, like in this racetrack example, fine, I guess. And sometimes not so useful. So another deal with this path animation is, look, there's a path that I just hand-authored. I'm like, move the pen to here, draw a curve that's basically like that. You can kind of hand-do if you look in the path a little bit. It's not terribly difficult to do. And this is like a hide show of a modal. It just slides in and out, but it does it along a path, because why not? It's optional. I put it in an @supports thing, because why not? I even wrapped it in a preferred reduce motion kind of thing. But if you don't do offset rotation, it can be weird. But you don't have to have it, because fortunately there's a property to handle that for you. Kind of sweet. This is our fan site so far that I've been working on. It's a little more foreshadowing to what we're going to get to. Here's Particle Man now. I just put a button in there, and you just turn it on, and Particle Man goes around. So it's pretty great as a fan site, I think, so far. Here's the thing. Offset path only takes path. It's the only one of those things that it takes. It's a little what the fucky, and it's a little understandable, because literally it's called offset path. So that's cool. And I kind of think what's more important, because I think even in the spec it takes a basic shape. But I imagine the punt was, okay, you've set a circle, which way? And there's no property that's like offset circle direction, or there is no way to say which way to go. And I think that may be why it doesn't support any of those things. But path does. It's like the way that you draw a circle would look different in the path data depending on which way it goes. So there's the thing. So okay, we got 2 properties so far, shape outside and offset path, that kind of are related. They're related to vector-ish data in CSS. So far, shape outside takes a whole bunch of them, offset path takes none. When we get to path, it's exactly the opposite. And URL is that way too. So offset path doesn't take any kind of URL, I'm pretty sure, at all, which is kind of too bad, because you could imagine having like an SVG shape on a page and then having some other element that follows it around or something that you'd put there in CSS for whatever reason. Anyway, so some discrepancies there, some of which are fine and some of them are a little weird. None of that was tasteful. There's tasteful things you can do. Here's a cool little loader that just animates stuff in a circle. Kind of pretty trivially easy with offset motion. Like, of course I want to be able to animate things on a path. Like, that just makes sense, you know? Circles are really easy. I liked this one because it generated the offset path with some random values in JavaScript. So every time you click it, the hearts move a little bit differently on a path. I think that's clever. CodePen's full of this stuff. Just go type offset path in there, and there'll be like 90 demos of cool stuff. So I just picked a few. Dan Wilson has looked into this a lot. I think thought this one was clever. That was like, guess the shape. And in the way that it reveals it to you is you have to, like, can you guess it? No, too hard. But if you go faster, your mind kind of puts the shape together. And then as I did this, I'm like, oh, I'm giving this talk in Amsterdam. I wonder if they'll know what that shape is. Is it obvious or not? It's Texas, if it's not. I was like, because if you asked me to draw the Netherlands, I don't think I could do it, probably. Sorry, I just can't. Cool, so we need a new topic. We've done a bunch on that. We're gonna need some reveals, something interesting to pop up on our site, you know? So I was thinking, there's an excellent song on the album called Your Racist Friend.
Politics for you, but I feel like a hypocrite talking to you and your racist friend.
He's at a party, doesn't want to talk to the guy anymore, little racist. So I was like, that's excellent. Let's put the lyrics on the page, you know, so our fans can Google them and find them, whatever, you know. But let's have the friend and the racist friend there, like as kind of like an interactive element. Why not? It gives us an excuse to talk about another property anyway. So there's the guy, and there's his racist friend. So you can clip path. You can put the guy there, that's just an image element, let's say, and just like with shape outside, we had polygon and circle, it supports all that same stuff. Let's look at inset too, and clip path is the new one we're looking at, property number 3. The old name was clip, which is kind of popular in like hiding things in CSS. You know, you clip 0, 0, 0, 0, and it clips it to nothing. Inset's like the opposite of that. It's like 10, 10, 10, 10 would be 0, 0, 0 clips it to nothing in clip. 0, 0, 0 and inset does nothing. It like the values that you give it, push it from the inside, whatever. So here's inset. If we add this image and we put 0 from the top, 20 from the right, it follows the same clock thing that margin and padding and all that stuff do, which is good. Nice API, good work. Also animatable. So we give it these values, we say there's a transform in there too for some reason, and a transition to the 0 values to move it back to 0. So if we put it on our fan page, as you're reading the lyrics, you can be like, what's this guy in the corner? I'm gonna hover over it, what? Whatever. It could have been hanging off the side, so it's not like the best demo ever, but you get it. He's being revealed there through inset changing. That hit counter works, by the way. I had it saved to Firebase, so every time you load the page, it just increments a number and saves it back to Firebase, which I thought was maybe the greatest use of Firebase. This is, none of that was tasteful. Let's do tasteful things. I made this little demo for like a gym website, and it has like, here's our coaches with these like mysterious boxes of imagery that's obviously been clipped off. And if you hover over them, it just reveals like the div that it's within and does that. So that's kind of cool. I don't know how accessible that is. Probably not very. I don't know. I don't know anything. Rectangles are boring, you know, why not just clip a little sliver off the top or the bottom and make it just a little wacky? Kind of a clever thing to do. It takes percentages, and I think that's a kind of an interesting distinction. Like, remember when we looked at the path data, it was a 1-to-1 exact copy from what you got in SVG. Polygon is not like that. It takes the two pairs, like the XY value, comma, another X value or whatever, but it takes percentages, it takes pixels, it takes M's, Rems, whatever. It doesn't take unitless values, because that's kind of meaningless in CSS. It makes perfect sense in SVG, where the units are like defined by the view box and stuff. It doesn't really make sense in CSS. So Polygon kind of feels more CSS-y. Which is cool, but that's going to maybe bite us in a second. So animatable as well, we already kind of knew that. These little guys are shimmying back and forth because we just set a keyframe to do that with some different values, making sure that the polygon has the same number of points, because that's required for that to work. Shimmy, shimmy, shake. There's some avatars. Clearly circle works. Clearly ellipse works. Clearly polygon works. Why not? Twitter loves the second one. They copied that from me, I think. They can be, what do you call that, easing? But like the cool kind of cubic Bezier easing where it even bounces and stuff. I think that's just amazing that works. That you can get a bouncy thing and it even does the value that's like, whatever, it's cool. This is, plus JavaScript, because why not? Why not have it just follow the mouse position around, and then it kind of grows it up slowly to reveal stuff. This is kind of a cool thing that you can do with just not too much CSS and JavaScript. It's just fun, a lot easier than it ever used to be. Why not have clip path not be on one element, but on a whole thing? Because why not? And then have it just be whoosh, whoosh. That kind of thing is possible. Just lay a bunch of divs on top of each other, lay the buttons on top of all of that, and have it click and have just some class names reveal the slidery stuff. This is like the best web tool ever created for clip path. It really helps you wrap your mind around what's happening with it and is interactable so you can get the values you need out of it while showing you the code as well, which is cool. So triangle, circle allows you to play with that and see it's giving you the values down below that you can copy. Ellipse has two things, because it has a radius x and y. You see you can cut shapes out of each other in Polygon too. That's kind of a unique, cool feature of it. The rest of all these shapes aren't like, they're just polygons, right? They're not. CSS doesn't have a hexagon function. It just takes polygon and you can do it. You can also play with it yourself, which is kind of rad. Very good tool, called Clippy. So when you Google it, you have to get past all the articles that are about the Microsoft thing and then find the tool. No path. Just like shape outside. I know what I'm talking about. So it's this chart again that's just confusing, kind of, that it's like all good on shape outside and clip path to take all those kind of normal shapes. But offset path, the one that does take path, proving that path exists in CSS, but it's not useful on those other two, which it would be kind of cool if it was. But you kind of get it, because it's like path feels slightly janky in CSS, where it has those unitless values. So like, what does unitless mean in CSS? It just guesses that they're pixels. A little weird. Shape outside, remember, only points to pictures. Clip path also can take a URL, but it's only to the ID of a clip path element in SVG. So they both take URL, but for different things. Little weird. Those are the really sad ones. I know there's people that work at browsers here. Take a picture. I'll send you the slides. So there's kind of ways to get around the curved thing, because there's also mask. So it's like, how do you get a curved clip path? One of them is define it in SVG and then use it as a URL. And one of them is just use a mask. And masks are different than clips. Masking equals images, black and white, hide and show. But images can have gray in them, which means half hide. That's the cool part about masks. Clip is all vector all the time. It's either hide or show. There's no in between. So, but you can make a mask that's just white and black, and then you're cool, and it can be SVG too, so it can be scalable, so why not? Here's an example of that. Here's a heart in SVG. We saved the heart somewhere, whatever, right? We're linking to the heart. There's the heart. It exists on the internet. We give it mask image, and now this is that. Cool, right? It's masking. It's kind of like background. The thing can also have a background, but this layers on top of it, whatever, clips the entire thing. You can adjust the size. It takes some of the same keywords that background does, so I can make it go all over that. Cool. So you kind of, if I really wanted to basically have clip path that was vector data, I can use mask image. I think I have another example of that. So this is like a slide deck that my coworker Tim Holman put together. As you click, it goes through his slides. And he made a star wipe, because duh, gotta have star wipe. But he also made a donkey wipe, or as he called it, I believe, an ass wipe. And then there's a mustache, which is clearly, you can do curves and clipping. Cool. So speaking of SVG, we talked about SVG a little bit. SVG is important because you can buy a book about it, which I recommend heartily. It's also, speaking of Samuel L. Jackson, if SVG had a wallet, it would probably say something on it, you know? It's pretty excellent for all this vector stuff. Okay, you can't really wrap text in SVG, but you could set angled text if you had to, T-span elements, whatever, let's not get into it. It has really excellent, powerful, way more powerful than CSS clipping and masking anyway. Like it could be multiple elements and you could tie it to other things. It's better, so SVG is cool that way. And it has animate motion, which is a more powerful way to animate something along a path. So it's kind of like, CSS in a way is kind of like catching up to some of the things SVG could do. SVG, I think, is like gaining some popularity, I hope. It's cool, I've been talking about it for a while. It's getting more and more popular. Not a lot is happening in CSS land, which is cool because my book is still super relevant. So buy that, but there's kind of like this blink was kind of like, I think we're going to maybe chop the entirety of smell, or smile about it, which is, I don't even care really, but it's weird to, on the web platform, as we've learned in this conference, to have like whole swaths of code like not supported anymore, but whatever. But with the popularity of SVG and the possibility of killing it, I kind of suspect that's why some of this has been happening in CSS. More powers combining SVG and CSS, and you know, like, oh shoot, animate motion is the only thing that can animate something on a path on the web. We should probably put something like that in CSS, hence offset path. Anyway, that's just a guess on how things go down. Let's look at SVG and CSS, some combinations. So that was the noun project. I just grabbed a flag, dragged it into CodePen. Now I have some path data to work with. Let me just select that first path. Let me background red driven development, make sure I got the right element. I do. Well done, self. Now let's manipulate it. Did you know you could do this? That's pretty weird. You can give it path. It didn't do anything. If I give it an empty string, it has now rewritten that path data through CSS to that path. So it has disappeared. But if I just copy the value, now it's back. If I change the value, I'm literally changing the SVG shape up there, which is pretty interesting. So the V is like wherever you are, go down from there. So that's the height of the pole. Made the pole higher. That's interesting. So SVG hover, let's just have it happen on an interaction. So now I'm manipulating that icon directly through CSS. Why not say, why don't you interpolate that over time? Sure, cool. So D is kind of the last property we're looking at, which is just further confuses things a little bit on how, like, look, path totally exists in CSS. It's weird that you can't use it for other things in a way. So that's kind of cool. I think so. I'd like that to hang out. Although I've heard, and this is kind of part of the deal, that like maybe path will go away. Like, why do you have to pass it a function when really maybe just a string makes the most sense in a way that may be coming? I'm not sure. Anyway, so here's some more examples of that. Look at, this is me, and I was learning the path syntax. So here's a bunch of really simple paths. Like one of them is like move to 2,2 and then draw a straight line to 8,8. So that's what that first one in the upper left is. And here's some more L commands that are just like draw a straight line right to here. And some of these are different curve commands as I was figuring out how curves work in path data. And then I was like, let me just add some CSS to that. That changes that D data, but with the same number of points. So there's me just changing. You can see that it's stretched up a little bit because I started at 1,1 instead of 2,2. So here's the CSS then. The reason those look so nice is because I've just beefed up the thickness of it. Or no, I didn't even really have to because the view box is so small, but I made them line cap rounded or whatever. And so in CSS now I'm changing that path data and having them interpret. So now I have these, which is the tiniest amount of code ever. I have these animating SVG elements. I just think that's amazing. Cool. They actually remind me of little pieces of string. This is when I got lazy on my fan site, and I'm like, this is taking too long. I'm just going to put the pieces of string over there. I kind of even forgot what I was doing in this talk. I don't even know what's going on.
Where was I forgot the point that I was making. I said if I was smart that I would save up for a piece of string and a rock to wind the string around. Everybody wants a rock to wind a piece of string around.
Everybody wants a rock to wind a piece of string around, people. Okay, okay, paths D. We just looked at it. It works. It's SVG on the left, which can be dropped in an HTML file. You know that. Path, I can change it, right? But polygon, no. That's why I think this is weird. Like, I have the points attribute, which has these unitless values in SVG. There's no version of CSS that can do that. Despite polygon being the most useful thing in shape outside and clip path, there's no way to control it this way. That's like not a thing, the string format or anything else. And I was like, okay, that's weird. I wonder if just D made it into CSS, you know? Like, I don't know, it's the most useful syntax, so why not? It's pretty cool that it supports it. Let me try some of the other properties. They literally all also work, except for polygon. So these have all been like promoted to properties or whatever. I think that's the terminology for it. So you can control all these other things in CSS as well as animate them, which is nice. Just no love for polygon. Sad polygon. The otherwise most useful thing. Meh. So the final chart for the 4 rando properties we looked at are the shape outside thing, which is pretty cool, just no path. Offset path, which only takes path, and I kind of get it, and that's maybe fine, except for it would be maybe cool to also allow it to have a fragment identifier kind of way to do it, to point to SVG, because why not? Clip path is pretty cool, but the way that it takes a URL could only be another clip path, and it doesn't take path, that would definitely be cool. And then D and path will map up to each other, but that feels like kind of temporary-ish, maybe. Like I think it's kind of only in Blinkland, and we'll see what happens with that. So in the gosh, it would be nice section of this talk, the checklist for all you browser people are those things, you know. And mostly, I think maybe my biggest question is what's up with the unitless, united situation? That seems to be the most confusing. Like having path data just be interpreted as pixels seems weird. But anyway, that's a glamorous slide. Word on the street is that the CSS folks have a desire to rain. And when I say walking on the street, I literally mean walking down the street with Tab Atkins saying that CSS folks intend to rein all this in. So like, cool, right? That's a chart that won't last very long, probably. I just thought that was funny, hanging punctuation. They all tend to work pretty well with progressive enhancement. Like we didn't look at that at all, but they tend, you know, it's just like a shape outside. Like who cares if the text really floats around it? It's cool, but whatever, you know, like pretty much all of that stuff is it's cool, but whatever territory, which is basically what progressive enhancement is, right? Yeah, and the overall message, if I may, is that there's just a lot of cool stuff that we can do with this. I showed you almost none of it. There's just all kinds of possibilities with all of it, particularly all of it. I was going to say offset path because it's like motion seems like an underserved kind of thing in CSS land, but there's just a lot to do. So thanks to all the organizers of this conference. This has been really cool, and it's my first time in Amsterdam and at this conference, and that's great. Thanks to all the speakers, both yesterday and today. That's been super fabulous. And that's me, and let's just listen to one little outro song before we do the questions.
There's only one thing that I know how to do well, and I've often been told that you only can do what you know how to do well, and that's be you. Be what you're like, be like yourself. And so I'm having a wonderful time, but I'd rather be whistling in the dark.
Oh yeah, let's chat.
Thank you very much. Wow. So finally, I could understand most of that.
Whoa.
Really?
Slides are online.
Good. So that looks like fantastic stuff to play with, right? It's just fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All those are in the fun category.
Yeah. I like your definition of progressive enhancement. Fun that
Progressive fun enhancement.
So can we use these stuff? So the first things you showed were on, you need floats for that, is that true?
For shape outside, you need floats for. And I was just like, I was just preparing for this. I read some articles that's like, you won't need floats forever because you'll be able to use CSS exclusions plus this, which means like, I think you can just move an element anywhere and have stuff move around. I don't know. Rachel Andrews explained it to me, and I was like, that sounds awesome. You need to teach me more about that.
You can't use it. You can't use it on grid.
Yeah, you can use it with grid. Exclusions you will be able to use with grid. I don't know what the future of that is, so just look it up. CSS exclusions. I heard they're great. Okay. Shape outside would work in a grid, but only like because a grid has text in it, you could have another element within a grid cell and wrap text around that. That would work fine.
Yeah, but shapy grids.
Yeah. Can you make a jigsaw puzzle of grids that fit together?
Something like that? Yeah?
No.
No, okay. Too bad. Well, we could with Houdini, probably.
Probably. So, I heard it's easy.
Figure it out. Recently, it looks like every 6 weeks we have just completely new features in CSS.
Sometimes, yeah.
But we also have old features, and sometimes I have the idea that we haven't really figured out what we can do with them.
No, I think you're right.
Yeah? Do you have any examples?
Of like uncharted territory in CSS.
Yeah. Things we should look into more?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I would subscribe to CSStricks.com and just read every article that we so occasionally we unearth some of that stuff. No, that's good. And I would high-five Jen Simmons because she does a lot of that kind of, like, I don't know, telling that same thing to the world. Like, you know, this world is not dug up yet. It's not uncovered. Exactly what you just said. There's plenty of territory to be played with here that isn't at all, you know? I was all proud of myself for my dumb little modal. I have literally never seen a modal slide in at an angle like that. And it's like, I can't be the first, you know? But I could see that being a, you know.
So I guess when we start combining all these paths with calculations and variables and viewport units.
Mind-blowing.
Yeah, okay.
I should have used viewport units. I wonder if you could use viewport units in path data. That would be weird and cool.
Everybody should always use viewport units.
You heard it here first.
Yeah. For everything. Well, not for everything. What's this?
Yeah. Your font size is tiny on that. You should see it. It must have amazing eyesight.
Yeah. How do we clip inaccessibility out of websites?
Were we getting rid of accessibility? How do you get rid of it?
Yeah, that's a question here.
It's just phrased weird, which is fine. It's, you know, just rephrase it and hit us up again or hit up me on Twitter and I'll try to answer it when I just don't get it.
Yeah. Oh. How do we clip I don't know. How do we clip inaccessibility out of websites? So any ways to make things more accessible with this stuff? Is that the question?
Oh, maybe. Like, does this stuff make stuff more accessible? I actually don't know about any of the stuff I just did. Maybe, probably not, though. What I really liked, though, this is a hot demo that I want to do. It was when we were talking about, this is totally unrelated. The web audio API plus form validation, that's got to happen. Somebody get on it. And a lot of you got laughed. That's so cool. What if, you know, like, your name is wrong. Or, well, that would be a bad one, but you didn't. Anyway, I just want to see it. It's got to happen. Yeah, especially as we learned that native form validation is not accessible. What is that? That's weird. That's bad. But audio, everybody likes that.
So, let me repeat that password for you really loud.
I didn't think it all through, okay?
That sounds nice. Yeah, we could, and then we need something like voice family. That's something I always wanted. Voice family poetic.
Oh.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
You still have 4 minutes to fill, so please go on.
No, that's the most popular password.
Okay. So do you have any tips for people who have to work on useful stuff all day? And I know most of these people are because they work at agencies and they get paid by bosses and they don't have time to play around that much. They go home, their families and things like that, and hobbies.
Bootstrap, you know? I don't know, you know?
I mean, we want to see more of this
they just tell you how to do
in
your job.
production right? I do. I'd like to see much more of this
Yeah.
in
Well, that's the
existing websites.
That's kind of the beauty of the progressive enhancement thing, is that you can be like, look, we can have fun and do this stuff in real life and not have it hurt anybody.
Just add it. Just do
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Didn't Jen say don't ask for permission?
Yeah.
Rock and roll.
Okay. Just repeat that. Don't ask for permission from anybody.
I don't know. I know what you're asking though. Like, do a prior. I don't know. I don't know how to do. I don't know how to do a job.
That's so good. Me neither.
Yeah.
That's why I'm a teacher. Okay, so I'll just say thank you.
Sure.
I don't know what the
Thanks, yeah.
questions.